layer styles. So layer styles are effects that can be applied to a type or even an image layer. We have layer styles in our layer panel. Okay, so notice which layer I have active right now. I have my type layer, and remember that if you have typed in the text on that layer, typically your name of that layer is going to be the text that you typed. So this is type. If I can, verify, turn it on, turn it off. That's my quick way of saying, yep, I got the right layer. Now at the very bottom of the layers panel, we have FX, and FX stands for effects. So this is the layer effects icon, FX. This allows me to add a layer style. And like I said, we can apply this to both type and image layers. So the layer styles dialog box here, we call them sticky because it will display the last settings that you used. So let's look at how we can apply a simple drop shadow style. So in here, I can choose drop shadow. It's at the bottom of my list. And when I choose that, my dialog box pops up and you're actually able to see a live preview here if you have your preview turned on. If you don't, you're not going to see it. I would highly recommend leaving that checked. So I actually see all of my other layer style possibilities and blending options in this dialog box. So I could actually go on and check a whole bunch of these, and you can see what I'm doing is changing a lot of different effects. And over here in my layers, look at them stack up. I don't want that many. I'm just going to choose drop shadow. Okay, so in the drop shadow, I have options as far as my blending mode. So this allows me to change how the drop shadow will blend with all other layers below it. And I can choose my color. The default color is black. If I check on this, I can choose to select a different color in my color picker using my color spectrum, any of the different color models, going into my color libraries. I also can sample up. When I wander out into my document, you can see my cursor changes to a eyedropper. So the eyedropper then will allow me to sample up a color from my document. So however you want to choose your color, I'm going to cancel that and just use black. The opacity, so the opacity ranges from 0, which means it's not there at all, it's fully transparent. Remember, opacity and transparency are opposites. And then if I make it 100% in the opacity, it's going to be fully there. It's going to be strong black or whatever color you have chosen. So we probably want to have it be a bit lighter because it is a drop shadow. We don't want it to be a dominant part of our composition. I'll leave it a little bit darker here so that you can see what I'm doing. Now the angle. So this is based on a circle, so 0 to 360 degrees. And this is the direction of the light. Now for me, it's kind of hard to use this. You can see how my shadow will rotate around and it'll go completely around in a circle. I can click and drag right in my document as well, and that's my preferred method because it's hard for me to figure out what degree is that. I like to click and drag so I can see exactly where it's going to land. So you certainly can do that. Now the use global light option here is selected, and that just indicates that with all of these effects, I'm going to be using the same light source, meaning that all of my angles will be at 129. This is an important thing to have checked. If you don't have it checked, you end up with light sources coming from all different directions, and it's very random. Unless it's the look that you're going for, it's not very appealing aesthetically. The distance is how far in pixels the shadow falls from the text, and this can go from 0, which means it's directly underneath of it. You can see a little bit of a halo or a glow, to 30,000. So that means it's completely off this document. You're not going to see it. So you can see, I'm at a distance here. And again, this is something that you can click and drag. Notice how it's moving. So I can change my angle and my distance manually, which I tend to prefer. The spread from 0 to 100%. And as you can see, it's just the width of the shadow and the size. So the size is the clarity of the shadow. And again, we're dealing with pixels here. It determines the size. And so if I go larger, it will increase the blur to the point where it feels as though I'm almost losing it because it's fading out completely. So it gives you a very soft feel of the text being elevated or emphasized down to being a bit more crisp. So the size isn't how wide or the width of the shadow, that's actually the spread. The size is what we could call clarity, or how blurry or tight or crisp that shadow is. So here are the main settings that you would use to apply a drop shadow. When I click OK, notice my effects, and the effects are not destructive, meaning I can turn them on and I can turn them off. So it's a great way to experiment. You can do a couple different types of drop shadow and then experiment with the method that, or the view that you like the best. So that's how we can use a layer style to create a drop shadow.